Your Excellency, the First Lady of Uganda.
The First Lady.
The First Lady of Uganda.
I also recognize the invaluable efforts and support from High People Foundation, the Youth Times News, my doctor, Nnabagereka Kofi.
It is a great honor to stand before you as the board chairperson of Decent Africa.
I am honored to be here today at the Decent Africa Summit.
I'm pleased to participate in this inaugural Decent Africa Summit,
where we celebrate the vital role of women in shaping a future of health and education for every child. This year's theme reflects our commitment to decency, empowerment, and inclusion as pillars for Africa's transformation.
Ensuring that no one is left behind, that every child, regardless of their background, has access to the healthcare and education they deserve.
I therefore applaud the Decent Africa Foundation for championing the cause of cultural preservation and youth empowerment under the leadership of my sister Joyce Sebugwawo.
Together, we can ensure that the value of respect, responsibility, and resilience are passed down, not just through generations, but through the heart of every child raised in our care.
Being here with remarkable leaders, innovators, and our young people gives me a lot of hope. I therefore applaud the Decent Africa Foundation for championing the cause of cultural preservation. May God bless the work of your hands.
nyete yoyona yene panga Uganda tiyamanye gwanyo eggwanga lyaffe wetulolesi zonna twesinge nnyo olwa Buganda yaffe ekitiibwa kya Buganda kyavaaja naffe tukikuumenga.
Thank you very much. Let me welcome Sister Nerima to give us an opening prayer.
Gracious God, we thank you for gathering us here today. We thank you for giving us a beautiful day. We thank you for our mother country, Uganda. We thank you for our fountain of honor, the Excellence President Yoweri Kaguta Museveni. We thank you for the gift of Mama Janet Museveni. We thank you for the political leadership that nurtures the welfare of all Ugandans. We thank you for all the religious leaders, cultural leaders, that Father, as we are sharing here in this summit of decent Africa, we call on you to fill us with values, to fill us with blessings, to fill us with love and care, that all Ugandans may work towards inclusiveness and integration of what you want us to do in order to make every Ugandan a happy person. All the government programs, bless them. And today, bless our mama and all the people supporting her, the security in this country, all the people up to the grassroots. And for those who have organized for this summit, in a special way, bless them. That today and forever, Uganda may be a new nation that integrity, love, honesty cover all Ugandans. We ask all this through Christ our Lord. Amen.
Amen. Can we clap for Sister one more time, ladies and gentlemen? Can we give another hand of applause to our Lord Almighty? Thank you very much. Well, you can actually have your seats. We thank the good Lord for such a beautiful and amazing day that it is. And we bless you for also honoring the invitation to come today. We bless the Lord again for the beautiful, beautiful weather. And without further ado, I want us to get into something real quick. And of course, we want to find out and know the role of women in ensuring health and education opportunities for every child. And with that, we have a beautiful panel of amazing, beautiful ladies. This, I know they are the beautiful. This one, I'm sure they're beautiful. We have OHT, Honorable, that is with us here today, Joyce Sebugwawo, and the Nnabagereka of Uganda, and also Mama, who is a chief guest as well. But also with us as well, we have a National Independence Medalist, CEO High People, Innocent Kawoya, the incoming Lord Mayor of Kampala, and also different dignitaries, all protocol observed. And allow me invite the moderator for this panel discussion, who is none other than Miss Priscilla Regina Naluoga, to come and take over this panel.
So our panel theme is focusing on women leading the charge of a pandemic-free world. The objective of this discussion is to highlight the role of women leaders in Africa as they're playing different, driving innovation policies, combating pandemics, as well as the fact that they can ensure resilient systems for health and education are tackled and focused on in their different capacities. So ladies and gentlemen, allow me to introduce my panel to you this morning. We are going to be hearing from Sister Rose Nerima. I've had the privilege of seeing her in person finally, and I'm very excited for her role as an advocate for inclusive education, health access for children, especially children with special needs. We do have Mrs. Roslyn Vinji Kawiso, Miss Bridget Nakakuyu Wamai is another champion, especially in financial sector. She's a champion of financial inclusion and healthcare resource mobilization, focusing on women and communities. Her work has been speaking for her. We can't wait for her to speak for her work. Now, from the African perspective, please note this is Decent Africa, so it's not just focusing on Uganda. In this room, we do have Ugandans and non-Ugandans, different African leaders. We do have Miss Emily Akuyo. There she comes. A round of applause for her. She's a member of the Pan-African Women's Organization, an advocate for women empowerment in leadership and health resilience. All right, so I'm going to allow my panelists a minute each to have a self-introduction. Let us know your line of work currently and your passion for women, especially focusing on health as well as education.
Good morning to all ladies and gentlemen present today. My name is Nnabagereka, an agro-inclusion expert working with Farmers Center, Chibuye.
My name is Emily Akolo. I work for the Pan-African Women's Organization as executive assistant to the Secretary General of the Pan-African Women's Organization. I also am the former Deputy Executive Director of the National Women's Council. I'm soon assuming another role under National Women's Council, which has now been combined as a Special Interest Groups Secretariat, Ministry of Gender, and I'm going to be the head of the National Women's Council Technical.
Congratulations to you, advice. It's a pleasure to be here. You look so beautiful, ladies. I am Nakakuyu Bridget Wamai, the head of finance at High People. I'm here to represent the Include Everyone program that focuses on women, but also makes sure that the people in marginalized populations are not left behind. Thank you.
My name is President Kawiso, by the grace of President of Mothers Union, Namibia Diocese, and State Region. I'm a mother, the grandmother. I'm a member of Interfaith, Uganda Interfaith. I'm a member of Religious Council, all under Church of Uganda. I'm happy to be here with you. You are welcome.
Thank you so much. And finally,
I'm Sister Rose Nerima. Profession, I'm a secondary teacher. I'm an administrator heading a secondary school. What brings me here, I headed Mbale School for the Deaf, the first woman to head Mbale School for the Deaf for 7 years, and the longest serving head teacher there. I mobilized and initiated a dual curriculum for the first time in this country, where the children with disability went through secondary education, at the same time went through vocational skilling, that by the time children with disability leave senior 4, they left with 2 certificates in DIT and Uganda Certificate of Education. Thank you.
all right. So we'll start with you, Sister Nerima. What innovative strategies have you actually been implementing in your 7-year leadership over the school with the children with special needs that have actually continued to help them access good quality education?
Thank you so much, Priscilla. First of all, let me appreciate the NRM government that for over the decades has recognized the education for all children in this country. Many of us, we have stories, those who witnessed one of the leaders of this nation gathered persons with disabilities and threw them in the River Nile. So for a long time, many parents kept off their children from being accessible and to access services in this country. So we want to thank the Fountain of Honor and Mama Janet for the struggle they have put across. Inclusion as a policy for special needs learners is in the process presented in the Parliament of Uganda. It's my prayer and everybody's prayer that this policy is worked on and implemented to support the persons with disability. Back to the point, most people living with disabilities are less privileged persons who often have been neglected or abused because society, culture, and customs dictate so. I think we are all common with the word, when they see somebody with a disability, quickly what comes in, Kasiru. That is one of the most disturbing words when I hear it. Because a child being disabled does not mean this child or this person cannot access every opportunity that any Ugandan can have. When I went to ballet school for the deaf, I found 46 children who are deaf. There was inclusion there. I had to work a strategy on how the enrollment of children with disability can increase. I want to tell you that by last year, we had registered 629 learners with disabilities across the two wings. I told you, I introduced the vocational wing in 2018. And that time the school was getting 43 million grant from government. It meant the vocational wing did not have any grant, but I had to struggle to see that the secondary wing, the grant that came to support the children in the secondary wing could support the students in the vocational wing. It came along with the staffing, which grew big. At the end of the day, the school had 121 staff members, including sign language interpreters who are not coded by public service up to today. Then, when I went there, the school had received heavy industrial machines of German origin in 2012, long back before I went there. I was the third head teacher to get those machines unused and assembled. I had to study the model of a dual curriculum, skilling a nation on my own. And in 2018, I had to engage the UPDF because I knew they have highly trained soldiers who were just in the barracks doing nothing. Thank God, in the Tare Sita of 2018, I was assigned a team of the military men who came well-skilled and assembled the machines. Mbale School for the Deaf became the first school piloting institution to implement what we call a dual curriculum. And I implemented 13 courses, and the school skyrocketed, it never looked back. The grant, through the mobilization, many children started coming in. And the challenge, which I will look at later, most of the children from the background, their families, are not very supportive. You could imagine how a child carries a polythene paper because the friend has told him or her that let's go to school, sister will receive you. Some of them had never been to school. We had to introduce them to skills. Others had never learned sign language. We had to introduce them to sign language for easy communication. Yeah.
Applause for her. Now, of course, Sister has mentioned what she has mentioned, but it has taken not just effort and a passion and willingness. There's been investments that have had to be done in that direction. And we do know that, of course, agriculture is the backbone of our economy as Uganda. Currently, we're also pushing for ICT to equally also become a backbone. Ministry of National Guidance and ICT has released the ICT National Roadmap. And it begs the question to my next panelists, and this is Evelyn and Adrian, but I'll start with Bridget. Bridget, we need to have a conversation around financial inclusion if we are going to ensure that the works of Sister Nerima are fruitful and beneficial to all people with disabilities across Uganda. And so what are some of those initiatives that High People has been championing over the course of time to support women and vulnerable groups, especially during health crisis?
Thank you very much, Ms. Regina. High People, with the Include Everyone program for the last 20 years, we have been at the forefront of inclusive, secure, inclusive financial payment systems. If it is a battle, I think we are winning. We have started, and the 20 years are still counting. We hope to get bigger to make sure the people, especially women and vulnerable groups, can access payments easily and in a self-secure way. We have created a digital literacy and financial toolkit that is being translated in a number of languages to make sure that the people from all over the world, focusing on starting with Africa, to say we are starting with Africa, most especially Uganda, to make sure everyone, me, Agishu, someone who is from the West, can read, the blind can access the toolkit. We're hoping for collaboration from people. I'm sure we're going to have a conversation with Sister to make sure people with disabilities are catered for as well. We are the biggest advocates for policy change. We have an honor for our CEO, who is also the chairperson of Inclusive Finance Working Group at Bank of Uganda, that is advocating for inclusive financial payments. He is the chairperson. What better way to have someone to advocate for our rights than a feminist? He is the biggest feminist I know. Sometimes we make fun about it at work, like there's no way a man can be more feminine than you or can advocate for women in places of power, in places of leadership like he does. So it's an honor that we have people like that on the table discussing issues that are affecting women and marginalized groups. We also provide capacity building. We do workshop. We've done the summit, Women in FinTech Summit and Hackathon that happens every year. We don't only provide mentorship that is basically just finance, but it's a holistic training and industrial skilling. We don't want to leave anyone behind.
How important are they for women to adopt them in order to have a pandemic response and recovery for a better future?
The use of technology itself puts women in a position that is central. We're not just looking at what we are doing during the pandemic, but we are positioning women to be the center of building back communities. The effects of COVID are still being realized up to now. We were underprepared, but we made it through. But can we be better prepared? So with the use of technology, we have access to digital services. You can make payments for health-related expenses using your phone at the comfort of your bed. If my mother gets sick, I know I can contact a doctor any day, anytime, and she can be accessed. She doesn't have to go to the hospital to access these services. We have initiatives like My Doctor that is championing telemedicine and creating solutions that the COVID pandemic left behind. If we forefront solutions like these that make it easy to access medical assistance, make payments, also receive alerts in real time, You're receiving updates about your health, about the people you care about. You're even able to track progress online. Even when you're not in the country, you don't need to be present. You don't need to be present for you to receive the service. Technology, the use of technology itself is making payments easy and affordable. At the comfort of your phone, you can access credit for health-related expenses. We have platforms like Clinic Pesa that is offering microloans and saving platforms for you to access medicine. You start small, you put money aside, especially for people that don't have insurance. You don't have to wait to have a medical emergency for you to have a safety bag to reach out to every time you want to spend on medicine, you want to buy medicine, you want to focus on health. There are provisions for it.
All right, thank you so much, Bridget. Please reach out to her and have a better understanding of some of the products and services she has mentioned, because the uptake of it can help us on an individual level and a group level. As we do continue on, you have been talking about collaborations in order to achieve what you're talking about. And I know that Adrian equally has had to pick up on the tool of collaboration in the agribusiness world in order to thrive. How has collaboration enabled you in particular to actually get to where you are at focusing on the fact that you had been affected by the pandemic, COVID-19 being the worldwide, but we have other pandemics that we have faced. HIV is still with us. We've first gone through Ebola. Currently, we're going through Mpox, and yet still you have to do business.
Well, agriculture as a sector provides a platform for training of women and children on health-related practices and proper hygiene to improve lives of children and women, or the country and communities at large. Well, with Farmers Center, where I come from, where I represent, it is a woman-led agribusiness that provides a training every last Saturday of every month, training to community people, but particularly women, about the importance of growing our foods in our homesteads, small spaces. We are impacting women to grow kitchen gardens to make sure their livelihoods get better. Yes, and with Farmers Center Chibuye, we have introduced an annual women's pack for sanitary napkins that includes every woman, and we call upon everyone to reach out to Farmers Center Chibuye to get an annual pack that will sort women red days throughout the year. Thank you.
Christmas is around the corner, so definitely that comes in handy. But thank you so much, Adrian. Turning to another religious leader. In your capacity, Mrs. Roslyn Benji, you are working with women every single day. This is daily bread for you. Tell us or share with us some of those success stories that you have actually witnessed as a woman leader that are measurable to health improvement during pandemics, focusedly.
I wish to thank the congregation who are present. I represent Mothers Union, Central Region, and in particular Nnabagereka Diocese. And the Mothers Union has been very, very key in the success stories of the pandemic, more especially during that time of COVID-19. We remember very, very well that our girls were abused, and they were abused by the people who were inside the house. You remember everybody was in the lockdown, were not going out, people are not working, and I'm sorry to say, the fathers of our kids, they misused the girls. There was one instance in Natete whereby, ladies, I want to warn you, because the ladies, most of the times, they want to pack their things and go and leave their daughters behind. And that was a bad thing at that particular time. The father started using the girl, and in that instance, the girl became pregnant. And when the mother came back, the girl could not talk about it. because, you know, the girls are always reserved. And this, I want to warn the parents. We should try as much as possible to open up with our children. This girl could not tell the mom that she was pregnant. And the father was telling her that if you say it, you'll be killed. So as in the middle of a fix, there was one of our Mothers Union members who came to know about that. So worked up as Mothers Union. We had to meet the family. And good enough, there was a safe home in Natete there called Ruminant Generation. At that time, they were keeping our girls safe. We were able to remove the girl from the family, and we took her to the safe shelter in Ruminant. She was taken care of, meanwhile, as the family was trying to sort out ourselves. And one of our objectives, number 5, is to help the families which have gone diversity. So we always help them. We try to talk to them. We try to bring the family together up again. And meanwhile, the girl was going through that. She gave birth to a baby bouncing boy. And this family, they was also sorting out themselves. But that was a story to tell. But what I can tell you now, the girl graduated. She went back to school. She graduated. She's now working. And the parents have reunited with the family. That is a story to tell around that pandemic of 2019.
Wow. That's one story, and I know that there are many because this is what you do on a daily basis. But it begs the question then, as a faith-based organization, how exactly are you positioning yourselves to play an educative role for our children, our families, in ensuring that there's attention that is paid critically to their health, critically to their education, if we are going to realize a pandemic-free future?
As Mothers Union, we normally have a work plan for the whole, for the whole country, that is the whole province, because we are organized in an inaugural that we start with our province. Then from the province, we go to the regions. Like the region I head now is the Central Region, which includes 7 dioceses. And then from the regions, we go to the dioceses. And the dioceses go down to archdeaconries, sub-parish, and parish. So when we are trying to communicate our information, it normally goes through those channels, and we make sure it reaches the families. Like this year, what we did as a province of Church of Uganda, we carried out MDD, and it was on the book of Romans 12, 1-2. It was about that not confronting to the standards of this world. You know, in this world of today, most of us, we are being taken up by the world.
Okay.
We are living alone, go the things, and we do the things as they do it in the world. And as you are hearing most of these days, we call the children of this world, the children of today. What's wrong with the children of today? And I keep on telling the ladies that if you are talking of the children of today, that means they are parents of today. So we should change what went wrong.
So before we speak of children, we must speak to the parents.
Yeah.
We must streamline the parents.
Yeah, and
we
that's what
educate
we do.
them.
Yes, and that's what we do. All these women you see here, Mothers Union, not only Mothers Union, we always carry out health camps in conjunction with Mengo Hospital and Uganda Protestant Bureau. They help us to do such arrangement because as Mothers Union, we fund ourselves through membership. We don't have funders. By the way, if they could be funders here at Mothers Union, we'd be doing a lot of good work.
But the fact that you have done this work, self-funding, Mothers Union, clap for yourselves. Let's clap for these ladies. Self-funding, and you're impacting communities like that as a faith-based organization. We do commend you. Let me turn to another leader. Now, this one is a global leader and African continent leader with the African Women's Pan-African Women's Organization, and we want to hear from you, Miss Emily Akuyo. As an African leader, you have worked with different governments, interacted with different governmental leaders, and it begs the question, on the part of collaboration, how can we as women present a unified front to lead and charge for a pandemic-free future?
Allow me to introduce the Pan-African Women's Organization. The Pan-African Women's Organization, as you have mentioned, is a continental organization, but of course works around the continent and globally for African women elsewhere, and also in the diaspora. It works as enhancing patriotic and Pan-African ideology in the spirit of the true African unity and solidarity for total enhanced development of Africa. When did the organization start? Pan-African Organization is actually one of the oldest women's movement organization in Africa, and also joining the rest of the women in the world. It was formed in 1962. It was launched in Addis Ababa by Mwalimu Julius Nyerere, the then president of Tanzania. And of course, it was formed when the women recognized that there was a gap. And so it was done to contribute, to recognize the contribution of visionary African women and what they were doing in the continent. They realized the need to unite the sisters from all African countries so that they can play their parts in different walks of life. These women built closer and closer relationships, shared experiences, losses, and gains, and victories, and they struggled for independence besides their counterparts. So it's the oldest, and the most significant part is that the Pan-African Women's Organization is the one that was able to inspire the men to form the Organization of the African Union, the OAU. It's under revival because before, when the men were put on the seat, now they sat there and forgot the women. So that's why most likely you have not been hearing while growing up about the Pan-African Women's Organization. You ask.
Question is about collaboration, presenting a unified front as women.
Yeah, so the Pan-African Women's Organization facilitates a women-led organization and give them the opportunity to serve fellow women. And this is one of the things that we really, this is one of the ways we really contribute in making women participate in and collaborate in controlling the pandemic. Power offices elsewhere made it a point to reach out to refugee communities during the pandemic, and specifically the Ugandan office, where the Secretary General sits, was very instrumental in reaching out to refugee communities that were not living in the camps. And so this strategy was spread across Africa. And the women tried their best in making sure that the women were comfortable. In the same vein, to facilitate proper collaboration, we asked for strengthening of regional partnership. And this should be through establishing of Pan-African health councils, where women sit and discuss, and the women leaders are able to participate in health policy making processes, share best practices, and also respond to health crises. Women should also be able to foster a collaboration between regional economic communities, like we have the ECOWAS, we have SADC, and the East African community. If women are brought together like this, they're able to work as a team and participate in the struggle. We should be also able to empower women leaders. Tracing the footprint, I also say that there is need to retrace the footprint of the women's movement. In the in the early 90s and probably the 80s and also 70s, there were strong women movements that had come. But because of ideology, many things have gone different ways. So there is need to trace the mission of the women's movement and bring them back on table. Through empowering them, there is need for identifying and training women leaders through their different places of work. They may be government organizations, they may be NGOs, and they should be trained in health, diplomacy, and crisis management. In the same vein, promoting women's representation in decision-making positions will be very helpful in ensuring that women hold key positions that help them participate directly in the policy-making processes in the whole of Africa. And as Pan-African Women's Organization, we are very committed to that. There is need to enhance capacity and capacity building and resource sharing within the African continent, especially within the women's movements and organizations. Through development of regional capacity building programs focusing on strengthening women's health systems, emergency preparedness, and response. There is also need to establish a regional resource sharing mechanism, a platform for sharing economic resources, expertise, and equipment to support pandemic response efforts. And of course, lastly, there is need to leverage technology and innovation, which is what she has explained, and I don't think I need to go further into that. But if women are helped to capture the environment, like now we even have, what we have is even worse. Now we have the AI, and women are still behind. So if the African governments could combine efforts to make women get empowered in this line, it would be beautiful. Then there is need to develop a digital platform for women. Now we are all here, and some of us are seeing each other for the first time. But also at the continental level, it's the same way. You see your friend today, and you meet probably at a conference. I'm sure most of you have attended international conferences.
And you next
meet
at
and then
Decent Africa Summit 2025.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Or you never even get to meet. So there is need for that platform to promote that kind of collaboration. Then lastly, there is need to promote innovation and research, encourage research, and also share data. I have been disappointed severally if I want to make a presentation somewhere, and there is I need data about, let's say, child mother and in Uganda and also in any other part of Africa. You go to a women's organization site, and what you get there is a summary of the research. You don't get anything. They say if you need, now you need to apply for it. It takes 3 to 4 days to get that. So there is need for data sharing. Yeah, and then of course, lastly, to foster community engagement and participation, which is what the Pan-African Women's Organization really encouraging. Raising awareness and promotion of community engagement through education, educating communities about the pandemic, preparedness and response. And then to support community-led initiatives like the Mothers Union is saying. We always say support, but how does it happen? You know? So there is need to come together as African governments and do something about that. Yeah.
Okay, you have said support, and you're very right. As women, we say, let's support. But your friend, your colleague will have a business, and they'll be posting their business every single day on their status. All you do is scroll. You don't pull out that money to support their business. You don't pull out that effort to practically support their business. So Mothers Union, I hope you've heard, there's support here that is ready to stand and work with you. Be active on that. You have definitely mentioned about an enhanced environment or collaborative environment. Let's talk about environments. There's a policy environment that needs to be addressed if we're really going to be having pandemic preparedness and women at the forefront of pandemic preparedness. Bridget, turning to you, what are some of the policies or regulations that currently exist that do support digital inclusion or financial digital solutions that are on the market right now, if any? And if not, also, what are some of those that you feel we need to speak into or address or to the government in order for them to actually take them up, consider them, and maybe someday implement them, pass them as bills, and acts to be able to support the work that is being talked about here?
The integration of financial inclusion in most of the services in Uganda, I believe, is a policy that is working for women. Nowadays, we don't have to rely on Kameza money to access funds to manage a home. You have money on your phone. You can call someone to send you money. It's easy. We've been given back the power that money was holding for us to manage our homes, for us to make decisions that are instant. Of course, there are still things that there's still change that needs to be done. The little strides that have been made now, we commend them, but there's more that we can do. She has been talking about collaboration. There has to be collaboration for fintechs, the government. There has to be an integration for all the people that are creating solutions for the health issues. There has to be support that needs to be given. And we need to share information. She talked about sharing information. The information that you have can be used by someone to access information that you also have. So let's share. Let's also have multi-first platforms. While we are sharing information, we can have a platform that she talked about where we integrate everything and bring everything together. I want to track my health. I want to be able to get resources on education. I want to be able to get funding. Let's put it all together.
All right, thank you so much. Sister Nerima, you are one that has had to force your way into some rooms so that you get the attention first and then the action next. And I know that with that experience, you've realized there's some loopholes on a national level that need to be addressed if we're going to be having a pandemic preparedness for a future led by women. What are some of those that we need to speak into?
Thank you very much, Regina. For us to journey through a free pandemic situation in Uganda, one, we should work on information. Already the system in the country indicates that many persons with disability, I'm going to lean more of the deaf and hard of hearing persons, they are suffering from missing of information. Because sign language is not a language that many Ugandans have embraced. So you find that children with disabilities, especially the deaf and hard of hearing, they are isolated in their own homes. They don't have somebody to communicate with. The sign language interpreters are not close to them. And so these children live in a world in their own selves, and there is a lot of suffering. Let me just give an incident. You find a parent has a child and is not able to communicate to this child here. Many of them are in rural areas where the source of power is not there. So it means they don't have TV, they cannot listen to the radios because of the hearing impairment. And so they lack counselors outside the families that can add value and meaning in their lives. And so many of them, they miss national services and also cannot participate in what government has organized for them. When they go to the police, we now have 2 police officers in this country who know sign language. They go to the hospital, it is the same challenge. They are taken to court and they are becoming lawlessness because they lack information. In this country, I'm the only secondary head teacher with sign language skills. I can fluently communicate with the deaf, sustain my communication. I don't need a sign language interpreter. I'm the only secondary head teacher who has done a postgraduate diploma in inclusive deaf education. This calls for all the people in this nation to go an extra mile because there is someone around you who needs that information. Many children with hearing impairment can go through education circle without even a teacher noticing that this child is deaf. I've talked about this, I've advocated for it, but sometimes I have crossed and stepped on the superior's toes.
Allow me to interrogate further. The amendments that are being reconsidered on the National Teachers Bill, is what you're talking about anywhere included in that?
It is included, but it is not efficient. You know, with Ugandans, we are good at talking. But when it comes to the reality of life living, people do not go an extra mile. That's why I'm saying that let it be a responsibility. You know, there are some values in life that we have to engage in, to put ourselves in. So what maybe I can conclude with in short is, what can we do? People should take on offices, not because of the papers we have acquired. When it comes to actual serving a person, it goes beyond the papers.
Okay.
We must marry the mind, the heart, and the hand.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Without wasting time, ladies and gentlemen, allow me invite an appreciation note from the board chairperson of Decent Africa, and that's Miss Camilla Namata.
Your Excellency, the First Lady of Uganda, the Patron of Decent Africa and High People, Oweekitiibwa Honorable Joyce Nabosa Sebugwawo, Honorable Ministers present, the Queen of Buganda Kingdom, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. It is a great honor to stand before you as the board chairperson of Decent Africa. I welcome you all to the first ever Decent Africa Summit, where we celebrate the vital role of women in shaping a future of health and education for every child. This year's theme reflects our commitment to decency, empowerment, and inclusion as pillars for Africa's transformation. I extend my heartfelt gratitude to the Decent Africa team for putting up such a wonderful event. I also thank our visionary founder, Mr. Innocent Kaoya, whose remarkable leadership and distinction as the youngest National Independence Medalist 2024 inspire us all. We are privileged to host great leaders who support such causes. A special welcome to our chief guest, the First Lady of Uganda and Minister of Education, Mama Janet Kataaha Museveni, for your dedication to women and children's welfare. We recently celebrated her birthday at Uweso, where she was also awarded by Decent Africa as the most decent First Lady in Africa. To our patron, Oweekitiibwa Honorable Joyce Nabosa Sebugwawo, we appreciate your support. You've empowered thousands and thousands of women all over Africa. This year, she also celebrated 60 years of marriage with her husband. It is now my honor to welcome our keynote speaker, a woman who has worked with a lot of women all over Africa. She has supported health and education initiative. Ladies and gentlemen, join me to welcome the Queen of Buganda Kingdom, Mama Nnabagereka Sylvia Nagginda.
The First Lady of Uganda, Honorable Janet Kataaha Museveni, our chief guest, OHTIWA Honorable Joyce Sebugwawo, the Minister of State for ICT, the honorable ministers from the central government and members of parliament, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. I am honored to be here today at the Decent Africa Summit. And we have come together from across the African continent. I understand we have people from different parts of Africa. And we are united by a shared vision of a pandemic-free world where every child has access to the best health and educational opportunities. Today, we'll reflect, or actually the panel has already spoken, but we're reflecting on the critical role women have played and will continue to play in shaping the future. The theme, envisioning an HIV-free and pandemic-free world, the role of women in ensuring health and educational opportunities for every child, is a vision that demands our collective effort, courage, and unwavering commitment. Today, I will speak about the importance of women in driving progress in society and how the principles of Ubuntu, such as unity, compassion, and collective responsibility, are key to overcoming challenges in health and education. The theme of my keynote address is the Ubuntu pathway, women leading the charge for a pandemic-free and inclusive future. It is necessary for us to reinforce women's vital contributions to the pillars of health and education. They are critical aspects of our Ubuntu philosophy, which calls us to live in harmony with each other and with nature, to care for one another and to take responsibility for the well-being of our community. Ubuntu values unity, compassion, and collective responsibility. We all know there are so many other values, but just focusing on those. Now, Ubuntu in essence is synonymous to and an amplification of Ubuntu, which is an African philosophy that espouses interconnectedness, humanity, dignity, and communal living. In a publication commissioned by the Nnabagereka Development Foundation titled Ubuntu, the Moral Concept and Way of Life, several societal values that make up Ubuntu were identified through broad consultations. Some of the societal values are empathy, selflessness, civic engagement, and proactive leadership, among others. Now, these values are universal and found in communities in all the regions of Uganda and Africa as a whole. Now, Ubuntu is a rich moral repository from which we can draw many lessons for growing and sustaining our society, primarily through women's leadership in healthcare and education. At the heart of Ubuntu Bulam lies the understanding that we are all interconnected. Our health and our education are not isolated struggles, but shared burdens and shared triumphs. The values of unity, compassion, and collective responsibility that define Ubuntu Bulam are the very values that can address today's most pressing health and educational challenges. HIV/AIDS, malaria, maternal mortality, and the educational barriers faced by girls remain key issues across the continent. These challenges cannot be solved in isolation, and they cannot be solved without working together. The values of Ubuntu Bulam offer a pathway that recognizes that the true progress can only be achieved when every individual in our community is cared for and supported. When we approach challenges with unity, compassion, or empathy, and collective responsibility, we ensure that no one is left behind. This is not just a call to action for women, it is a call to action for all of us as we strive towards a pandemic-free and equitable future. Now, leveraging culture frameworks to strengthen community resilience. Africa's strength lies not only in its diversity, but also its rich culture heritage. From the traditional healers who provided time-honored indigenous medicines that combat diseases like malaria, to the community leaders who advocated for education and built schools, our cultures offer frameworks that have long ensured resilience. As we confront modern health and educational challenges, we must embrace and leverage these culture frameworks. We cannot ignore the wisdom of our elders, the guidance of our community leaders, and the support structures within our societies that have sustained us through many crises. Through Ubuntu Bulam, we learn that we must not discard our cultural wisdom, but adapt to the modern context. Adapt it to the modern context. By bringing together positive traditional practices and constructive modern solutions, we can build communities that are both resilient and empowered to face any challenge. As women, we are keepers and custodians of cultural knowledge and are therefore central to the process of integration and innovation. The critical role of women in ensuring access to health and education. Women have always been at the forefront of community health and education as mothers and daughters. Women are the ones who care for the sick and teach the young. All over Africa, women are the driving force behind efforts to provide healthcare to the most vulnerable, to ensure children are educated, and to build communities where everyone has the opportunity to survive and thrive. However, the recognition of women's contributions is often overlooked. Women's leadership in health and education is not only important, it is essential. We cannot forget the work that they do on the front lines of healthcare as doctors and nurses in hospitals and rural health centers. For example, COVID-19 pandemic, women in Uganda took on a central role in the crisis as healthcare frontline workers, caregivers, innovators, and community organizers through their exemplary leadership. We recall the nurses, mainly women, who selflessly cared for the COVID-19 patients in hospitals and healthcare centers throughout the country when the entire nation was in lockdown. They clearly espoused service above self. And we cannot forget women's roles as fee-paying parents, ensuring that children, especially girls, attend school as well as the tireless teachers and head teachers who strive to keep our societies running by educating the youth. We must ensure that women are empowered to continue their vital work by providing them the tools, resources, and support they need. Now, examples of successes or successful initiatives led by women reflecting Ubuntu Bulamu principles. Across Africa, women have already begun leading successful initiatives that embody the principles of Ubuntu Bulamu. And I think some of them were among the panelists that were here before me. We really appreciate the kind of work that you do. In Uganda, for example, women have led community-based programs aimed at HIV prevention and awareness. Now, these grassroots movements have transformed communities using education, empathy, and compassion to break the silence and stigma around HIV. Women have not only served as caregivers and educators, but also as champions of change. During the COVID-19 lockdown, we recall the market owners or the market vendors who were primarily female and leaders in their own right, who worked to see that the access to food, healthcare, and other services were not disrupted. We all recall the women who made the markets in Kampala their home, sacrificing taking care of their children in their homes and other domestic work for the common good. These examples show that Ubuntu Bulamu is not a mere ideal. It is a practical, lived reality, one that can create tangible solutions to the challenges we face today in promoting women's leadership in health and education. Now, as we continue to make strides towards a better future, we must also advocate for women's leadership in decision-making positions within the health and education sectors. I think somebody mentioned a very high number of women parliamentarians and women in leadership role. So far, Uganda is doing quite well, but we still need to do better. Now, women's voices must be heard in policy discussions. I think more women voices in boardrooms and in classrooms and hospitals. To ensure that women can contribute meaningfully, we need to create ways for women to get into leadership positions, whether as technocrats, legislators, educators, or medical experts. Women must be present where decisions are made about the health and the education of their children. They have to be present where those decisions are being made. And I think I must recognize the fact that the Minister of Education in our country is a woman, and we're with her right now. So that's a very dynamic example. We thank you very much, Mama Janeti, for all that you do in the education ministry. Only through advocating for inclusive leadership with increased female representation will we create systems that reflect the needs of every community. Effective women leaders tended to communicate directly with women, men, and youth, and did this by projecting calmness, compassion, and empathy. This was clearly demonstrated across the globe during the COVID pandemic. Showing calmness, compassion, empathy, which are values of Ubuntu Bulamu, is not a weakness in any way, but it's a big strength that we should all exercise in all aspects of our lives. Now, overall, women leaders the world over received praise for their successful crisis management style during that crisis, which required them as leaders to show empathy, help people make sense of the crisis, the COVID-19 crisis, and bolster solidarity and trust. They collaborated with a range of public officials, and they put the pandemic response center stage rather than making the pandemic about themselves. Overcoming systemic barriers to women's participation in leadership roles. Unfortunately, barriers to women's participation in leadership remain widespread across Africa. Discriminatory practices, gender stereotypes, and lack of access to education and resources often hinder women from reaching their full potential. So we must work together to dismantle these barriers. By providing education, mentorship, and access to capital, we can empower women to lead. We must also address the negative cultural norms that limit women's opportunities and ensure that women are equipped with the skills and knowledge to excel in leadership roles. The collaborations between grassroots organizations, policymakers, and global leaders. The path to a pandemic-free and equitable world requires collaboration at every level. Grassroots organizations, policymakers, and global leaders must come together, working in tandem to create impactful solutions. Collaborations like the Decent Africa Initiative and the Ubuntu Bulemu program of the Nnabagereka Development Foundation play a critical role in amplifying the impact of women-led initiatives, enabling resources to flow into local communities and ensuring that the work being done on the ground is supported and scaled. Together we can drive meaningful change. Together we can build a future where every child has access to healthcare and education. And not just healthcare, but quality healthcare and quality education, and where every woman is empowered to lead. Now, addressing financial access barriers for women. One of the greatest challenges to women's full participation in society is financial access. With limited access to capital, women are often unable to invest in viable businesses, higher education, or healthcare and other well-being initiatives. Now, this is a major barrier to economic independence and leadership. So we must tackle this issue by ensuring that women have access to financing, for instance, through microloans, savings and credit cooperative organizations, SACCOs, or government initiatives like the Parish Development Model. Empowering women financially is an essential step toward ensuring that they can contribute fully to society and to the progress of their communities. Empowering women through financial literacy and inclusion. Empowering women is not just about giving them access to money. It is also about providing them with the knowledge and tools to use the money wisely to generate profits for increased investment. By empowering women with financial skills and financial literacy, we enable them to have agency and to make informed decisions about their health, education, and investments. This is the key to long-term sustainable human development. Advocacy for gender responsiveness, health, and education policies. To create lasting change, we must advocate for gender responsive health and education policies that address the unique challenges faced by women and girls. Now, these policies must ensure that resources are allocated to where they are most needed and that women's needs and priorities are considered in all decision-making processes. Mobilizing resources and political will, we must mobilize resources and political will to ensure that every child has access to quality education and healthcare. Governments, businesses, and civil servants, civil society must come together to commit to the issue or to the cause of health and education for all. Inspiring participants to adopt and implement Ubuntu Bulemu principles. The COVID-19 pandemic placed many women leaders in the spotlight, both at the national and at the local level. Stereotypically, female traits like compassion and care became more important and more appreciated by the general public. It is the value-based traits that will put women leaders in the forefront to lead the charge for a pandemic-free and inclusive future. Let us therefore institutionalize and use our rich cultural heritage that is steeped in Ubuntu to address the contemporary health and healthcare challenges. Let us take this opportunity to reaffirm our commitment to this cause. We are stronger together. It is only by embracing the values of Ubuntu Bulamu where we are all, or where, I must say, we all help each other, have empathy, compassion, that we can build a true inclusive and pandemic-free future. I urge each one of us here today to share the values embedded in Ubuntu Bulamu, namely unity, compassion, and collective responsibility with your communities and within your communities. Let us implement these values in everything we do, ensuring that no one is left behind, that every child, regardless of their background, has access to the healthcare and education they deserve. I want to conclude by reminding ourselves that the journey toward a pandemic-free and equitable world is not one that we can travel alone. It is a journey that requires collective action through civic engagement, selflessness, and proactive leadership. I thank you all very much for listening. May God bless you.
Allow me invite our patron of Decent Africa. That's none other than OHT Honorable Joyce Nabosa Sebugwawo.
The First Lady of Uganda, Honorable Janet Kataaha Museveni, and the Minister of Education and Sports, the Nnabagereka, all ministers present. It is both an honor and a privilege to stand before you today at this significant gathering, the Decent Africa Summit. As we come together from various parts of our beautiful continent, we are united by one common cause: to ensure that the children of Africa grow up in an environment that is nurturing, safe, and conducive to their development as responsible, resilient, and compassionate individuals. Parenting, as we know, is one of the most important roles a person can undertake. It is a responsibility that extends beyond the provision of basic needs. It is the responsibility of shaping minds, instilling values, and creating a foundation for a lifetime of learning and growth. We are not just raising children, we are nurturing the future of Africa. In Africa, where all communities are deeply rooted in culture, tradition, and family values, we must emphasize the importance of parenting as the first school, the first institution of learning. It is within the home that the fundamental pillars of respect, empathy, discipline, and hard work are built. But we must ask ourselves, are we fully aware of the influence we have as parents? Are we equipped with the knowledge and resources to raise children who will not only succeed individually, but also contribute to the collective well-being of our societies. We cannot deny that the challenges facing families across Africa today are immense. From poverty and lack of access to education, to social instability and the pressures of modern life. Many parents are burdened with circumstances that make it difficult to provide the optimal care and guidance their children deserve. Yet, in the face of these challenges, we must remind ourselves that parenting is not defined by the wealth we possess, but by the wisdom and love we impact. The role of parents today goes beyond ensuring that children are fed and clothed. It includes guiding them through the complexities of our fast-changing world, teaching them how to navigate technology, imparting the values of tolerance and respect, and helping them understand their place within the global community. It is about preparing them to survive and thrive empowered with knowledge, empathy, and a strong sense of responsibility towards each other and the world around them. As policymakers and leaders, we are collectively responsible for supporting parents in this vital mission. We must ensure that all children, regardless of where they live or their socioeconomic background, have access to quality education, health care, and the opportunity to grow up in a safe environment. We must invest in programs that strengthen families, provide parenting education, and create supportive communities that empower parents to succeed in raising their children. We also recognize that children today are exposed to an increasingly complex world. The digital age brings both opportunities and risks. Our role is to guide them in using technology for learning, communication, and creativity while protecting them from the dangers of misuse and exploitation. We must build systems that promote online safety, mental health support, and emotional well-being. To every parent here today, I urge you to remember that your influence extends far beyond the confines of your homes. You are the first teacher, the first mentor, and the first example of integrity, kindness, and resilience. Your words and actions today will shape tomorrow's leaders, innovators, and peace builders. I extend deepest appreciation to Mama Kataaha Museveni for gracing this occasion as chief guest and congratulate her on her recognition as the most decent lady in Africa, honoring her exemplary dedication to women, children, and families. Congratulations, Mama. I also warmly recognize the Nnabagereka of Uganda, whose leadership continues to inspire women and girls through culture, education, and health empowerment. I applaud the tireless efforts of the young, innovative team at Decent Africa and High People, whose dedication has transformed lives across Uganda and Africa. Special thanks to dynamic leaders like Mr. Innocent Kawoya, Mr. Henry Lutwama, Ms. Kamera Namata, Mr. Joseph Chimbowa, and Mr. Nicholas Kalungi. Today's theme, empowering women and the next generation through education and health initiatives, highlights the vital role of women in building educated and healthy society. Women's love and sacrifices are the backbone of Africa's progress, and we must empower them through education, health care, and financial inclusion. I urge you, policymakers and leaders, to prioritize women's empowerment, strengthen health systems, and engage youth as future leaders. Together, we can build a healthier, more educated Africa. I am pleased to propose hosting the second annual Decent African Summit in December 2025, and humbly request Mama to serve as our global chair of honor. I also invite you, Mama, to support the Middle East and Africa Digital Transformation Summit next June, which will foster innovation and economic growth. To all present, your commitment to Africans' progress is a testament to what we can achieve together. In conclusion, as we look towards the future, we must recognize that the upbringing of our children is the foundation upon which the future of Africa will be built. It is up to each of us, governments, communities, and families, to work together to create environments where children are encouraged to dream, empowered to act, and inspired to create positive change. Let us rise to the challenge of raising the next generation of leaders, thinkers, and advocates who will carry Africa into a brighter and more prosperous future. Together, we can ensure that the value of respect, responsibility, and resilience are passed down, not just through generations, but through the heart of every child raised in our care. I thank you, and Merry Christmas and Happy New Year. Allow me at this juncture to call upon our guest of honor, Mama Janet Kataaha Museveni, to address the audience. I thank you, Mama.
Your Royal Highness, the Nnabagereka of Uganda, Sylvia Nagginda, Honorable Patron of the Decent Africa Foundation, Honorable Joyce Sebugwawo, Honorable Ministers present here this afternoon, the Board Chair of Decent Africa, our esteemed guests from the Decent Africa Foundation, visionary leaders, partners, the young people gathered here today, I thank you for enabling us to gather here on this special day to share ideas and strengthen our commitment to building a better Africa. I am pleased to participate in this inaugural Decent Africa Summit. Being here with remarkable leaders, innovators, and our young people gives me a lot of hope. I therefore applaud the Decent Africa Foundation for championing the cause of cultural preservation and youth empowerment under the leadership of my sister Joyce Sebugwawo. I also recognize the invaluable efforts and support from High People Foundation, the Youth Times News, my doctor and Nonda Coffee. May God bless the work of your hands. The theme of this summit, the role of women in shaping a healthier and more educated future for Africa's children, is important for me because I have been deeply concerned about the state and the future of Africa for a long time. And I'm sure that the role of women and the education of our children are critical in shaping the Africa we want to see going forward. Over the years, I have witnessed the strength of women, their resilience, selflessness, and persistent faith in the face of challenges. Women are the heart of our families and communities. When a woman is empowered, the ripple effects are felt far and wide, touching the lives of children, families, and nations. In 1986, as Uganda grappled with the devastation caused by HIV and AIDS, we founded the Uganda Women's Effort to Save Orphans, as you've just heard from that young man, Uweso, a cause that was entirely led by women who came together and volunteered their resources and efforts and always were willing to provide a safety net for the children who had no care and to address the needs of orphans and widows affected by HIV and AIDS and the war that ushered in the NRM government. This initiative reaffirmed a simple truth that women are natural caregivers. They wholeheartedly step forward to care for the vulnerable and give hope where it seems lost. Furthermore, in my work at the Ministry of Education and Sports, I have witnessed firsthand how education impacts and transforms lives. It is through education that we can shape the future of our children and equip them with the skills to lead, to innovate, and impact society by solving the challenges of tomorrow. Education has an influence on families. Since educated mothers will always fight for their children's education. Similarly, a community that values education will prioritize education and ensure that no child will be left behind. In Uganda, we continuously strive to expand opportunities for education, for vocational training and skills development. These efforts are a testament to our belief in the potential of our young people. The NRM government has championed this by giving our children access to education through the universal primary education and universal secondary education, as well as empowering women at large. Cognizant of our role as African women in shaping the future of our children, it is my hope and prayer that every woman will intentionally uphold our cultural values of unity, of respect and dignity, that strength is founded in the love and faith of God, knowing that He purposed us to be proud of the fact that we are created in His image. Therefore, when we try to change or actually abuse God's creation, which He announced to be good, then we are actually abusing God. That is why I strongly feel duty-bound to stand up proudly, boldly, and thankfully portray God's work in the African woman, that the world may know and see it without covering it with any other cultural mockery of God's work. These values, when grounded in faith, provide a moral compass that guides our children and sustains our communities, especially in the face of numerous challenges brought about by globalization. The Bible, in Proverbs chapter 22, verse 6, reminds us to train up a child in the way they should go, and when they are old, they will not depart from it, unquote. In light of this scripture, we have the unique opportunity as women to be our children's first teachers. God's word assures us that if we do our part to instill in them the virtues of kindness, of discipline, of stewardship, and hard work, our efforts in training them will not be in vain. Therefore, let us teach the children in our care to love themselves as Africans and to love God, to value their heritage and dream boldly so that foreigners who visit Africa can see and admire people who are proud of who they are, of their beautiful country, and know that the people of Africa have something to offer to the rest of the world. Not only always trying to learn what others offer, with nothing to offer to the rest of the world themselves, but to show to the world and prove that God has blessed us so much, with so much to show, and therefore we have ever so much to offer to the rest of the world. As I conclude, allow me to use this opportunity to thank you for the recognition I received early this year. I was truly humbled by this award, which was presented to me on my birthday at our children's home in Masulita. It was a great honor to my God and a celebration of his creation, as well as a reminder that what one believes in one's heart actually shows on the outside. This award further affirmed the importance of decency and the vital role we owe to our society and our race as Africans. I strongly believe that the Decent Africa Summit is a clarion call to every woman and youth to rise to the occasion and recognize the critical role we each play in transforming our society, and agree that it is time that African women stand up for their image of the African women so that the world can know how African women actually look like in their natural state. I can honestly tell you that somebody in the US once asked me or told me that they had never seen the real African hair. So this person said, so this is how it actually looks when it is natural? And I was proud to say, yes, and praise the Lord. To the youth and women leaders here today, you are Africa's hope. You are beautiful people, beautiful children and beautiful women. Step forward with courage and determination. Trust in God and be the change makers in your communities, in your families, in Africa. To the policymakers and partners present, let us hold hands to champion initiatives that prioritize family, healthcare, education, and economic empowerment for women and children primarily, and to all people of goodwill. Together, we can build a continent where every child has a chance to thrive as a natural African as God actually meant it to be. Finally, my sincere gratitude goes to the visionary founders and partners of this summit, namely the Decent Africa Foundation, High People Foundation, Youth Times News, my Dr. Nona Kofi. Thank you for your dedication to our shared mission. To the women here gathered together, mothers, sisters, and daughters of Africa, you are the backbone of our families and the strength of our nation. Together, let's arise and shape a brighter future for Africa of tomorrow. Once again, to my sister, Honorable Joyce Sebugwawo, thank you for your exemplary leadership and for staying the course in promoting the cause of women over the years. I wish you all a fruitful inaugural summit, and to those visiting Uganda, I hope you have a memorable stay and that you'll experience the warmth of Ugandan hospitality. Thank you, and God bless you.
Tiyamanye wanyo ekwanga yafe Wetulole sizona Twesingenyo Olwa Buganda yafe Ekitebwa kya Buganda kyavaja Nafe tukikumenga